Hello there, and welcome to the guide to Gothic Rizz. You heard me right. There are a million guides online, there are a million threads in some questionable forums I went on about how to bag a goth baddie. This is a tutorial for the goth baddies to start playing some offense, okay? Because do I believe in equal rights? Maybe I shouldn't answer that, but this is a guide more aimed at, I guess, like kind of goth girls, or I guess like a certain genre of alternative women who want to get with. Typically, you can use this to bag anyone. Okay, I don't know about women. Honestly, I'm not good at that. How do you think I found myself in those forums? With women, pray. End of tutorial. This specifically is a tutorial for if you are an alternative woman who wants to try to use that angle to get a specific person, usually a man. Okay, because these tactics work best on the straight male. Okay, my bad. All right, let's get straight down to business. Let's say you're goth, awesome, amazing, love it, whatever, snap, snap, snap. You've come to realize that this dating economy is not what it's all cracked up to be. The most action you're getting is in your Reddit DMs. The thing is, there is a right way to go about this, okay? You have a resource, okay? Your resource is not being like the rest. You're not necessarily playing the game wrong. It's just that alternative women have to use an alternative playbook, okay? And this alternative playbook is, for whatever reason, not on the internet, okay? Kind of messed up. I'm here to help, okay? Be the change you want to see in the world. Low-key, don't know if it'll be for the better. I'll just get it out of the way. Some criticisms I'm expecting to get on this video is people will complain that I'm perpetuating stereotypes, okay? Or I'm contributing to the idea that goth girls are something to be fetishized, okay? However, I actually believe that women should have the choice if they want to catch the wave of a nasty meme cycle and use it to inadvertently increase their SMV. Oh god, I can't believe I said that. If you, for whatever reason, want to date someone who is going to fetishize you, I think it's a bad idea, probably, okay? But like, I guess you should still be able to do that. That's your prerogative, okay? And also, think about it. This is doing something good for the community, okay? Because every slimeball who's taken off of the streets and temporarily into the arms of an alt woman who will probably ruin their life, that's one less slimeball who is like, hey, spooky lady, you know, like, come on, I'm contributing to the commons, okay? You don't understand. Not only will I be teaching you about the art of alternative Rizz, I will also be doing a little bit of makeup, okay? Because I need to establish some authority. So step number 1 is you gotta have that fit on, okay? That's half the battle, okay? So you need to get out of your stupid normie outfit that no one likes and everyone hates. I mean, did you see my outfit? Anyways, you want to get out of this. Seamless, am I right? I could not forget my slippers, though. Anyways, now that I've gotten the chance to slip into something a little bit more uncomfortable, let's get going. Alright, excellent. We're here, we're all fitted out. I guess a few short tips on how to assemble a gothic fit is pay attention to the materials, pay attention to layering, pay attention to silhouette, pay attention to accessories, especially materials, because anything that you can kind of like subliminally associate with like a fetish is like, it's also really good to have different symbols from different cultures. Like you have your crosses, your onks, maybe like a pentagram, I don't even know, but men love a woman who is not afraid to get canceled, because it's a higher likelihood of her dating him. Let's get right into it, okay? Let's just dive right in. Let's just dive right in there. The first step, choose your target, okay? And that might sound bad, that might sound predatory, because it is. There's different types of men who are, for whatever reason, more inclined to want a goth girlfriend, or at least to get with one. So I guess assess your goals and choose your target wisely. Just getting to be able to tap that is one thing, because sometimes that's how you get your foot into the door. However, it's not necessarily just what this guide is about, okay? This is about love, okay? Yes, are you being manipulative? Actually, this is my channel, I can say whatever you want. No, this isn't manipulation tactics. This is just showing them subliminally why they should want you. The point of this video is to get you to short to long term bag a shoddy that has not been to prison. So there will be a group of people who are more susceptible to your feminine wiles or whatever, okay? And so probably the most obvious thing that these people have in common is mommy issues. And so that gets me started on Gothic eyeliner, okay? Because depending on the kind of mommy issues this person has, you're gonna want to be strategic with the shape, okay? So just like how the mommy issues that people have stems from like either they hate their mom or they really don't hate their mom, there are, I think, some different goth looks that you can do. You know, the eyeliner style ranging from haunted doll to I'm gonna poke an eye out. But yeah, so I'm gonna try to do something in between those so I can cast a wide net and manipulate as many people as possible. So right, grab any of your favorite eyeliners and let's get this show on the road. Like, the majority of them are going to have mommy issues. Like, there's gonna be some kind of complex there, but that's honestly kind of fun. But you can expect something, but you don't know what to expect. So that kind of gamifies it. Yeah, I will go sequentially through like the groups of people who, I guess, are more vulnerable to your evil dark powers or whatever. First you have your turbo normies who just really want like a personality but aren't really sure how to go about it, you know? Like, they don't really have like the time to maybe like develop one outside of their 9 to 5. And this is also kind of like overlapping with the tech bro, except most of the time the tech bro will go after you because he assumes that you are autistic like him. For both groups, it's a good chance that they have tried psychedelics and they were not effective in growing the personality. So now they've moved on to phase B, which is alt shoddy. Then we have indie guys who just want an accessory that only 1 in 3 guys at the DIY show will have. You also have your people who are kind of like chronically online, but they want to be perceived as like normal. And I mean like the hateful chronically online, okay? Like, they on 4chan. They want to be able to seem more niche by their choice in like a romantic partner. However, they have already decided that they are like hateful and discriminatory of like real minorities, and so they're like, let me get like a fake minority. Let me get a girl with blue hair. Again, like, this tutorial is like not assuming that like you want any of these people, but this is just like kind of like, this is like a break in case fire, you know? Like, let's hope it doesn't happen if it happens. Basically, just those guys, in addition to men who say, oh, I want a girl with daddy issues, and by daddy issues they mean into the same depraved sexual things that they are. However, there is an added benefit of daddy issues. If you really screw up, there is no angry father to hunt you down. There's that, you know, like, there's people with like the addiction to like goth porn, but then there's also the people who like have this like crazy broken bird syndrome, kind of like they want something to fix, you know? Like, this is almost like the opposite of like, because again, it's a spectrum. It's either like step on me or like, oh no, you know, why is she wearing all black? And also I think that people who fear judgment and they believe that, you know, an alt shoddy is the way. It is that you are less perceivably human. The further you go into any specific aesthetic direction, the less human you come off as, and so they feel safer because they fear human women. And if you are able to be sexualized, however, they do not have the, I guess, social fears about you that they do most women, then lit, you know? I do think that's my hypothesis, so that's a big part of it. A lot of the people who are in these vulnerable groups are something I would classify as something of like a tech bro, for better or for worse, you know, or someone who is just very online. From what I gather, these groups are just less keen on like humanity as a whole. Yeah, and so I think that's like reflected in like their preferences. Just some food for thought. I believe this aspect of dehumanization is like a triad, okay? You can either be close to a sex doll, an alien, or a corpse, okay? And there's definitely combinations, okay? But we're leaning towards corpse, okay? So there's one thing I must stress, low-key. A lot of people have like the misconception that like alt men are somehow better than like non-alt men, and I might catch some heat for this, but in my experience, this is false. They are still kind of whack, and sometimes even worse, because they think that they are like, because they're in the scene, they think that they can't be predators as well. They think that they can't fetishize you because they are also like in the same niche. If you are gonna go down like the homosexuality route, and you get someone who is like too similar in style to you, everyone's gonna be like, okay, you just wanna fuck yourself. That's what everyone's gonna think. And also it's kind of like an unspoken competition. Like, I know it's not a competition, but like when you are there with someone who is in like the same league as you, like, I don't know, it's all of a sudden it's gonna be whose eyeliner is better, who has taller shoes, who is louder when they're walking. None of these are problems when I am dating an autistic man who has no idea how to dress himself. In order to appropriately utilize the things that we have that they want, we gotta understand what they want and why they want it. So I did a lot of research deep in the web. That's right, second page of Google. I know, I do too much. I can't lie, a lot of it is like a fetish. However, there are some genuine reasons. As a general population, especially the younger, you know, I'm thinking Zoomers, okay? We're just kind of bored and numb. Everyone is kind of like hinge and porn lobotomized. And so what people want is something different. They want a man or a woman or whatever that will not manipulate them and break their heart. Are they wrong about this? Yes, but they just want someone who is like actually different, because I would say there are a lot of bad actors in the dating scene right now. And so just kind of like an escape from that, I think, is part of it. Sort of on that vein, there's like a perceived lower amount of judgment within the alt girls, you know? Like, they're perceived to be more open to, I suppose, potential eccentricities. Because just look at her, you know? Like, she can wear that outfit. She can watch some Lego Star Wars with me. Low key, the aesthetic is cool. You know, I must say I'm a fan of it, okay? I live it. This is my life. However, in order to, I suppose, kind of fit into the aesthetic, there is kind of more of like, I would say, an implicit like drive for alternative people to actually get like dressed up every day, because if you are, I guess, in a certain subculture, you're more likely to be, I guess, like doing the most with your outfits, because like that's just like what you do, you know? Like you want to be on theme. There's probably like a slightly like higher perception that like goth girls or like alternative women are always kind of, you know, like that. Like they don't have the human flaw of like looking kind of like not disheveled, because like low-key a lot of us do look disheveled. Like that is kind of the appeal, or so I've been told on reddit.com. But basically I think that part of like the appeal is like I guess like the perception of the lack of certain like human flaws. The intentionality, I suppose, of the style is, I think, what makes it more common to, I guess, like see like, oh, you know, I want a girl that dresses like this all the time. And a lot of people are like, oh, they only look like that 10% of the time. And you're like, full thing? Like, probably, but I don't know. Like, I know some people who'd be putting it on, like, on the daily, like, they never miss, no off days. But I think that's part of it as well. And also, again, I think, like, just sort of more of, like, the intentionality and, like, having to curate your style a certain way, I think sort of creates a more, like, aesthetic conscientiousness, and you also sort of are forced to develop your skills, accessorizing, layering, you know, because, like, most of the time you only have one color. And also it's a striking aesthetic, and so you do also visually stand apart from the crowd. However, all of this work that you put into your look isn't really seen as vain. I've seen, like, I don't know, I've definitely seen, like, a lot of people who are, like, oh, people who are, like, alternative are just, like, desperate for attention, you know? It's kind of an unpopular opinion, but, like, you know, you have, like, nose ring theory. I feel like that kind of loses its momentum when the people that they are criticizing and calling vain aren't looking to achieve, like, a level of conventional attractiveness. Because, like, think about it, like, if you really were vain, you would be trying to be, like, the pinnacle of, like, human beauty or whatever. However, you know, like, the look that all of us spend so many hours doing for whatever reason, it's not conventionally attractive. It is kind of like you get to spend a lot of time on your appearance without it being like, oh, she's so shallow, you know? I think that also feeds into, like, you know, like, not like the rest. All these girls are so self-centered, you know, they're so obsessed with how they look, they're so, like, narcissistic. She over here is curating her aesthetic as a form of self-expression, you know, when in reality I'm just as self-absorbed and narcissistic as the rest. I just have something a little wrong. Perfect segue to my next point, which is that a lot of these people have, like, autistic puzzle-solving brains, and they want something to fix. There's the perceived vulnerability, and so this person either has just, like, you know, some weird broken bird syndrome where, like, they want to fix issues they might see or feel that they have in someone else, or, like, they want, like, a passion project to distract them from, like, their own, like, issues. Someone with a proclivity of puzzles, and they want to try to sort of subconsciously fix what is, like, wrong with you, maybe. However, the thing that is wrong with you, this is very important, it cannot have an actual name. It cannot be diagnosed, okay? I'm not saying you don't need a diagnosis. I'm just saying do not get that diagnosis. If your issues evade classification, the mystery is preserved and they will stay invested for long enough to, I don't know, fall in love with you or something. Keep things interesting. Don't go to therapy. That's kind of like, the end of, like, the slightly pure reasons. Another reason why a lot of people might be into it is because of a perceived novelty, you know? Like, a lot, like, because depending on where you are, like, it could be a large alternative population. However, in a lot of places, like, you might be, like, the only, like, goth girl in, like, a 100-mile radius, and gosh dang it, a lot of these men are just thinking, oh, I'll try anything once, you know? There's that kind of like, I guess, the dark side, or like the sexualized side of she's not like other girls. It ties in with wanting to signal some kind of depth or something different about them in kind of like the most convenient way possible, because they don't actually have to like date someone who like they don't find attractive. Like they don't have to be doing any charity cases. They just like need to date someone who is like their polar opposite, and then they can like repost all these stupid Instagram memes like golden retriever boyfriend and black cat girlfriend. Like, I hate that. I hate that so goddamn much. If I see that, it's like, when he's a golden retriever, you're a black cat. Pow, 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 pow. They want to be like different in like a way that is safe, I guess. And then there's kind of like the internal of that, like the manic pixie dream girl effect. A lot of those guys kind of get funneled into I guess just like the corporate work system, because they do it well, you know, like their brains work very quantitatively, and that's cool or whatever, but it does not make it any less soul crushing. A lot of them kind of live with their careers taking up a very large portion of their life, or they just don't have a lot going on, you know, whatever it may be. They want something to come and save them from being bored, or they want someone to come and save them from all of their problems, you know, like manic pixie dream girl trope. It's just because like you're not like the rest, and oh, it'll be so different this time, like she's nothing like my ex, she wears black lipstick, you know, like. And then obviously you knew this was coming, like we have the fuckboy reasons. Okay, I was doing some meditation and I was thinking a lot of fuckboy habits unfortunately coincide with like sort of gothic proclivities, like, oh yeah girl, sorry, I only want to meet you after dark because I know that your beautiful alabaster skin burns so easily in that evil sun. Like, I'm just being conscious of the UV. Girl, I'm just being conscious of the UV index for you because you're my number one. If you are in the alternative scene and they are very much not in the alternative scene, it does not leave a lot of social overlap for them to be held like accountable for their actions. However, because everyone's meeting on dating apps anyways, that wasn't a thing anyways. So again, like, you know, the novelty I think is big with this one. It's nice to have, you know, like, it's nice to have a roster, but it's even nicer to have a roster that has like distinct people. I think it makes one feel fulfilled. It aligns the chakras, so to speak. Think of like the anime harem. They need a token goth, or they need like some kind of alien or furry or something. Okay, they need some kind of like inhuman pick. Okay, this is like lining up with like, you know, like the fuckboy reasons, but also just kind of like, you know, we all knew this was coming. I don't think it's as big as like a thing as people would like imagine, really. Like, you know, online people are like, I am so sick and tired of being fetishized, and I'm like, bro, it's because you're on Reddit. Okay, like, if you go outside, people are a lot more tame. Definitely not completely tame. It is definitely a huge thing that people will assume that you are like a freak, which can be a little jarring. Like, even if you are into it, just having someone like assume the stereotype that like no one is going to dress like this if they have like, you know, self-respect or aren't like a complete freak. Just put very simply, they assume you're a freak, and also like they've kind of classically conditioned themselves through like pornography, and also just sort of like a lot of aspects of the goth fashion, you know, like there are like a lot of components in like the gothic subculture, you know, that are very much overlapping with BDSM subculture. Like, think about it, like chokers, fishnets, like big ass leather boots, you know, leather, lace, you know, oh my gosh, like these nails, like whatever, anything can be. Long story short, they just want someone who will let them hit them while they hit. Section 3. Mastering the game. Okay, these are the tactics. Okay, we got the who, we got the why, and now we're getting to the how. Okay, look at that, organized. It's important before you use any of these tactics to take the context you're in into account. I just know your crowd, go to places that they might populate, especially if you might stick out, you know. Also know kind of like what ecosystem you're operating in, you know, because you are going to both have a harder time and an easier time depending on how normalized the style is there. You know, say like you're in a super tiny town, like you will have more like individual, I guess, like novelty factor. However, people's willingness to actually like get with you and stay with you is probably like a lot lower, because like there's more I guess like pressure to socially conform. Just know your crowd. These tactics are not like a complete catch-all. Again, like if they are someone who has like one kind of mommy issues and not the other kind of mommy issues, some of them will be effective, some of them won't. All right, the first tactic. You must master the dissociative pout, okay? You must understand that a lot of the appeal that comes with like alternative women is like the implicit not giving a fuck that it takes, I guess, to break the social norms, I guess, which does not really make sense, because I think that like I very much gaff, okay, but I guess if people don't think I do, then I don't. Essentially, you want to have this be like a nonchalant Trojan horse, so you can weasel your way in before you let them know how neurotic you are. And I think it's especially important to act very like dismissive and uninterested if they have like a specifically complicated relationship with their mom, you know? Again, like if they were smothered, you want to be aloof. If they were neglected, you want to be a little bit more zany and interested. It's really kind of like they are trying to fill something, and obviously it depends on like the receptiveness, you know? Like be observant. Just because like you know like a guy like more well and like you think something will work doesn't mean it'll work, okay? Trust me, I am someone who believes in equations and I have been wrong a lot, okay? It's alright. Doesn't have to happen. Not anymore. Now that I've got this super good high quality video. Basically, you want to give off the impression that you don't give a fuck, okay? Whether it be like you are so like just like out there and different, it's like, oh, she doesn't give a fuck about what anyone thinks, oh my gosh, or just like off like and so uninterested in everyone else. It almost like implies some kind of like strange like understanding that you are like superior to everyone. I'm not good at that. I do think obviously like a balance, because like, you know, you don't want to be annoying and you don't want to be a B word. Just having a specific attitude can do a lot to communicate that you don't give a fuck, okay? Like I said, the attitude is just kind of like an I don't gaff Trojan horse. Last thing you'd want to imply is that you grew up in a stable home and don't have any attachment issues. Because, you know, the loud aesthetic communicates that you are kind of like fast and loose, but also kind of like confident a little bit. And when everyone is like a commitment-fearing zombie, that is actually your edge. Being different and sometimes like mysterious can imply that you have more going on than you actually do, okay? So when you're girl rotting, I better not be seeing you active on Instagram, okay? I better not see you liking any stories. I better see you, I don't know, practicing your dissociative pout, okay? They are scared of commitments, and that sucks. However, part of the reason why they're scared is because they are scared that people aren't going to commit. And there is like this kind of like, you know, dating prisoner's dilemma going on, you know? But I guess a good way to show the shawties you're willing to commit is by committing to the bit, okay? Being a niche implies that you are able to commit to something, and that is a start, okay? That is a start, because everyone's scared. Part of the nonchalant attitude as well is to help combat kind of like the stereotype that all of us are like really like horrifically mentally ill, you know, even if it's like true. You don't want to let them know, because that is one of like the three, I guess, like weaknesses of like the goth girl as like a symbol, okay? The first one is the assumption that they're probably mentally ill. The second one, the assumption that they're probably very radically left in their politics. And the third one, just sort of the association with like I don't know, okay. Hear me out. I'm not calling anyone frumpy and unattractive. The people on Reddit are, okay? Don't shoot the messenger, don't shoot the messenger. As long as we can combat this like evil triad, you'll be more successful. But I think that, you know, being able to not be visibly neurotic is great at convincing people you aren't completely mentally ill. A lot of these men have wised up, okay? They can smell obsessive tendencies like a mile away, and even though you have your little cloak of darkness and mystery to hide behind, they will still know if you are freaking stalking them, okay? Like, they'll know just implicitly. So, like, first of all, I guess, okay, maybe this is, like, some actual advice, like, just don't revolve your life around men or, like, relationships, you know? You need to tend to your garden if you want to attract the butterflies. At the end of the day, we're just trying not to scare the huzz, okay? I just, like, listen to this advice. If you are making yourself very easy to get, then they're gonna be like, wait a minute, you know? Like, yeah, she's a niche, but, like, why is she not in high demand or something? You know, like, if you really are so special, you're not going to be jumping at the chance to get with like a Redditor, okay? Just having like a not caring attitude can be quite like kind of like disarming, you know? Like, I found like a lot of times with like judgment, like if you don't care, then they're like, wait, why do I care, you know? Like, this is just in life, okay? But sometimes the haters become fans. And also just be unpredictable, okay? They will never guess that you are reading and watching the same male manipulator tips that they are. Just being communicated through a goth girl instead of Andrew Tate. Unfortunate nonchalant advice, like, that's the end of it. Because guess what? This is the good news. Because there is like an expected eccentricity, you get to be a little odd sometimes, especially if things are kind of like going well. You actually don't have to be as concerned about certain things scaring the hoes, okay? If anything, like, how you act barely even matters. It's just how much you engage with them, really. I don't know, how much validation you give them. This is the next step of mastering the game. Be creep. A lot of, like, red pill, like, dating advice you'll see is that people fall in love more, or, like, they feel more bonded to people when they're, like, thrilled, okay? If you're trying to cuff these men, okay, that's, like, a good idea. You know, make them scared, okay? Not, like, for real scared. Make them scared in the sense that if a frat boy were to ask someone to do it, they would like contact someone. You know, like that's like the line you draw, okay? Like asking to meet them like after dark, that's completely fine. Asking them like, hey, like, will you eat this for me? Like maybe not, you know? Like, it's great because of the expected level of eccentricity you now have the audacity of a frat boy. Just be kind of weird and like erratic in your planning, you know? Again, like staying unpredictable kind of makes them see you as something that is not a constant, and so you need to be like kind of chased after. People fall in love when they're thrilled or whatever. However, you gotta be crazy in the fun way, okay? You can't be crazy in the way that like their normal exes were, okay? Everyone is crazy, okay? Everyone is crazy, everyone's a little crazy, okay? However, I think that it's just a lot easier to call women crazy, okay? Because when women are crazy, women are all like expressive with it, okay? Men just kill them, just get mad, okay? However, like, when I say crazy, I mean like you dress weird, you know? It's not like you're gonna slash their tires, okay? However, I'm pretty sure like men's like worst fear with like online dating is just like getting catfished and like she'll secretly be like fat or something. So maybe anything goes. The next part of this is that men, I think, are tired of being the scarers, and so having the roles like reversed or having like the scare factor kind of like nullified, like because of the perception that you aren't like as judgmental in like a typical way. You're not like the rest, remember? Like that is, I think, like kind of a welcome change. Like they don't, I think like most men, okay, at least the men, fingers crossed, okay, at least the men who you are hoping to date really don't want to feel like creeps, okay? They don't want to make women uncomfortable, and so having someone with less preconceived judgments about how people should like behave and everything, and like fitting into social norms, I think is kind of like, they're like, oh my gosh, like they get all like flustered or whatever. And the last part about being kind of like scary is you want to be like unsettling, again, like, you know, to sociopath, you know, like be kind of like off a little bit, you know, because your goal, what I'm about to say may sound a little backwards, because it is a little backwards. If you can't tell, this whole video is a little bit backwards, okay? But so what is it, man? What is in fact your goal is to kind of get like dehumanized a little bit, okay? Dehumanize now. Yeah, so I'm talking like stay anemic, okay? I better see no body hair. You can see as I've done, like, I've kind of covered up any semblance of like human flesh on my face. You want to do that. And also, speaking of the face, don't let them see you barefaced for, I'd say, like minimum 2 to 4 years. You need them locked before they know that you actually kind of look like a real person sometimes. Which is why I hate the people on Instagram and like Reddit when they're all like, goth girls actually don't look like this all the time. I'm like, shut up, shut. Yeah, so if you're committed to the bit, you can look like this all the time, okay? I'm talking like in the morning, make sure you wake up before the sneaky link, go to the bathroom, touch up your eyeliner, okay? Because that's what dedication is, okay? Dedication to hating yourself. Just sort of feed into the fantasy. Again, like it's important not to be like 911 scary, but you do want to be like, oh my gosh, like she's so like, I never know what she's gonna do next. How scary you should be depends on like how autistic your person of interest is, you know? If they are very autistic and like neurotic and resistance to change, tone it down, okay? Tone it down. Okay, so we have be creep, okay? But it's also very important to be weirdo. Part of the appeal for some people genuinely is like a perceived vulnerability through social ineptitude. It's like you're less likely to be ran through because they think that no one else is like trying to venture where they are. Again, if you are, I guess, like attractive enough to these people, it doesn't really matter. It can actually be like a bonus, you know? Like, and I think it also kind of helps like build confidence in a strange way. Like if you are kind of aware, like, okay, like people kind of not only expect me to be weird, but this guy wants me to be weird, you know? And I'm talking like, by weird I don't mean like still try to read the social cues, but pretend like you're not, okay? Ha ha ha. Ha ha. Like, yeah, just like say anything. Because again, like if these people are like scared off by all this, you know, maybe dial it back, but if that's not enough, they just weren't the one. They weren't the one, okay? Like just say some kind of crazy things like that are like dancing the line between like weird and creepy. Like if a man were to say it, like it wouldn't be chill, it wouldn't be chill. Like it's just like making kind of like inappropriate jokes is one thing. Use it sparingly. Okay, use it sparingly. Like say you like walk into like an empty alley or something, just like kind of like casually asking like, hey, you have both of your kidneys, right? Tell them that it does something for you when they mansplain, okay? Like also, see, a lot of this weird stuff will be scratching an itch in their brain that has never been touched, okay? Because no one wants to, okay? No one wants to go there. However, remember, you're not like the other girls. You absolutely will. This actually kind of is like sort of like, I don't know how I feel about this, but like, if part of your attraction to this man is that he has like similar stupid niche autistic interest to you, low-key pretending not to know about it, but then knowing what questions to ask is low-key pretty good, okay? I mean, is that just manipulation? No. That is I think that's actually called love in 2025. You'll find that just like a lot of people like really regularly do not select a lot of the dialogue options when some of them are just so excellent, okay? So just don't be scared to say, okay, maybe a little scared, but like try to be less scared about saying the wrong thing, because it's not like they're really listening to you anyways. So just honestly, like, don't hold back. I know you got some practice, okay? I know you were weird in middle school, okay? So just try to channel like little bits and pieces of that, you know? Like especially things that would like work back when you were like chopped. If you say it now, the crowd goes wild, okay? It's actually honestly very depressing how much like your appearance can like impact how people treat you. Channel bits and pieces of just like the weird but charming things you would do in middle school, minus the persona, okay? Being like performatively autistic will lull them into a false sense of security, so they'll feel safe. And also, I guess just another reason why I think this is like becoming more like sought after or effective is because people are bored, okay? Like dating like the same person like over and over again, it feels like. So I don't know, flip the script. You have free will. All right, now this is an important step. You gotta be different, okay? When I say different, obviously I mean different from like the typical, you know, women, okay? You gotta be not like other girls. Not just that, but you need to be different than like the other goth girls, okay? Because again, like there are certain weaknesses in the archetype that you can identify and then like exploit. If you communicate that they are not present within you, then low-key you're in. Low-key, you want to be not like the rest, okay? Like you're an enigma, whatever, like we get it. Because like I said, the biggest weakness of the goth girl is that they worry that you're gonna make them stop being problematic, and you need to let them know that you will not do that. You will let them stay evil. You gotta be performatively apolitical. This is a drastic measure, okay? Like abandoning your political beliefs, okay? Because I will be so for real. You do not want to be trying to like cuff a man who is willing to sign your reproductive rights away, especially because like you know if you baby trap those guys, they're gonna be like, oh my god, okay, but like this one time, like, no babe, it's chill, like everyone gets like one abortion, okay? However though, we must not forget that we are unwilling members of this digital footprint era. Certain men do have the potential to drag you down with them when they like burn their careers to the ground, but so maybe don't do that. Unfortunately, men have like become more hesitant in general to like invest, you know? So it is very important, especially for the first 3 months. You cannot be too demanding, okay? Do not ask them to like pay for anything, okay? Because if you are too demanding, then they will wise up and they will realize that we are merely just a reskin of Becky and Stacy, okay? We are just as bad as the rest of the girls, okay? We just do it in all black, okay? Like that's the truth, okay? Hopefully there are like not any tech bros in my area watching this, but if there are, I didn't mean it. BTW, all of this is like a joke, and if you like take any of this like seriously and like don't give like the goth baddie a chance, it's like honestly more embarrassing for you, I think. Yeah. I would say like be kind of hesitant with like asking for things, maybe subliminally message, you know, but men like to be like, oh, I thought of that, you know? So if you can convince them certain things are their idea, then you're in, but like still. You also can't make fun of them for like being losers, okay? Because unfortunately that is kind of like why they would date you. Honestly, no, I didn't mean that. It's why they would date me. I shouldn't perpetuate like low self-esteem in this community. Namaste. And also, just one last thing, this is kind of like gonna differentiate you from like a lot of your like goth competition. I guess like be willing to like be presentable or not presentable. It depends. Like if you're meeting their parents, don't be like, you're infringing on my self-expression by making me not wear my 6-inch platform boots. Fuck you. Like, you know, like that's, in my opinion, that's a little crazy. Maybe I was just raised too strict, but like it's not a human right to wear a spike choker. Or be willing to tone it up. Like if they really want to piss their parents off, which is not a good sign by the way for like the longevity of like the relationship, but it's okay. We can gaslight our way out of anything these days, okay? This is chill or whatever. Oh, but the look is not done yet. Okay, this is the whole fit. This is definitely more like trad-ish goth, like not really, I don't know. More of like a traditional goth look, you know? So it's like a little bit harder to like fetishize, but not impossible, okay? However, yeah, like when a lot of men say goth, they just mean like pretty girl with black hair and lipstick, but that's okay, that's okay. Because if you were following my lack of instruction, then maybe you learned something about makeup, I don't know, probably not, but anyways, being so deadass, okay, there are some unfortunate truths, okay, and it's hard not to get, no pun intended, black-pilled about all this, but like, people, like a lot of people are just looking to like hit once, or like they're only looking to like, you know, fetishize you or get with you because they think you're like a freak and they like assume that you're down, which is like, I don't know, whack. But you just need to gaslight them, okay? You need to gaslight them until they black out and wake up watching the original Dracula movie with their goth wife. Yeah, and happily ever after or whatever. And like, don't get me wrong, there are some people who I'm sure do want that, you know, and like they're normie and like not terrible people, but those are kind of few and far between, but that's okay. A lot of people also just like kind of want the fantasy and like they don't give a shit about the subculture. And that's just something you're gonna like have to learn to like live with. Again, like you can gaslight them into like caring about things that you care about. See, most of the time, if you can like get them into like a relationship, then it's much easier to get them to do things by like holding that meow meow hostage. I will say, the closer you follow all of this advice, probably like the less real of like a shoddy you'll get, you know? The more you like go off script, the more opportunities they have to like see like the real you. And so that's some food for thought. So like it's honestly kind of like it makes dating like more fun when you think about it, really. Like it makes all of this being said, it makes dating more interesting in the end because it's honestly kind of like a puzzle, you know? Like you get to think like, oh, does this guy actually like, you know, care about me as an individual at all? Or am I just being fetishized? You know, like you just get to kind of like debate that when they're talking about like their super boring like finance internship or whatever. But yeah, like honestly, I think that the goth community should feel blessed about this like window of fetishization we have, because it can be kind of like lucrative. Again, like you can kind of punch above your weight depending on the time of year area. Yeah, like who cares about the history of the subculture at all? Like who cares? You know, the alt girls on OnlyFans are raking it in. You know, the goth porn subreddits almost always have more members than any of the goth fashion subreddits. Sometimes all of them like combined. Who cares? Who cares? But yeah, like remember, you are a symbol. Maybe just a fantasy if you're lucky. But really, like, who wants the mask pulled back? You know, like, who wants to be seen? Who wants to be like really looked at? And like, I know I'm like being kind of like not dead ass, but like, if leave a like and a comment and subscribe, of course, if you found any of this advice helpful or entertaining, or I don't know, you should just subscribe anyways. Subscribe now and think about it later. Sleep on it, you know? You'll probably remember to unsubscribe if you change your mind. But yeah. So if you're new here, which I know you're new here because this is the first video, I hope you enjoyed. Yeah, so you'll probably see maybe some more stuff like this from me. I might make a sequel depending on whatever. But this has been me. This has been the show. But yeah, peace out and good night. Stay safe out there. I don't know.